Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss, and back for the first time in what feels like forever, Matt, Vitlame, and myself have entered that dark, dark hole, the deep hole of the abyss, and we've climbed our way right out of that hole, and now we're presenting this podcast into your ear holes. And with me, as always, is Matt Brandenburg.
Holy shit, it's been like a month. It's crazy. I don't even remember how to do any of this. How do you talk?
We have mouths. What's going on here? Vitlame, do you have a mouth?
For a week now, I thought I didn't have a mouth, but thankfully I still have now.
Oh, me too. But I think we felt that way for different reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, man, this is crazy. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
Yeah, oh
did I see you guys after my Ska Fest, or was that the last time I saw you guys? It was before the Ska Fest.
It was before the Ska Fest, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you guys Ska Fest. Jeez. All right, it's been that long.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like holy shit. Time flies. So
yeah,
because we've taken essentially a month off, which wasn't really on purpose, it just kind of worked out that way. We want to take this episode to just kind of go over some highlights of our last month of consuming. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And just kind of give updates on where everybody's at. And consumption's always fun. I won't.
Not the old thing. No, that's never fun.
No, not the old thing. The old consumption's not fun. I mean, consuming things is fun. Consuming is fun.
Like what even happened to consumption? Do people still get that? I don't even know what it is, honestly.
It's tuberculosis.
Oh yeah, I get
tuberculosis.
That's what Doc Holliday suffered from in Tombstone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. it's what happens in Red Dead Redemption 2 with Arthur Morgan.
That's where all my references come from, weird Western movies. And apparently games.
And also,
we all have to go to dry land to keep our lungs dry, I guess.
And before we get to this, I do want to apologize for my voice. I am currently working at a haunted house, and it takes a toll on your vocal cords. Who knew scaring people can mess up your voice a little bit?
Maybe that's why ghosts are always so angry, is because they got rough vocal cords.
Goddamn people coming and disturbing my peace.
I'm just yelling and I get angry because it hurts.
Oh, God. And the more I yell, the more it hurts, and the angrier I get.
And the more I yell, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I want to apologize as well. You probably hear that my voice is a little still nasally, and it's because I managed to evade it for 3.5 fucking years, but nope, COVID cut my ass.
Honestly, I don't want to dismiss you getting COVID, but I feel like we're at the point of COVID where we're all just gonna get it eventually.
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's just a matter of time for any of us to get it.
Oh yeah, it's basically now how people view it here in Iceland is basically it's now part of the flu thing. I guess it's no biggie, and I'm like, well, if you get really sick, it's a big fucking biggie.
Right.
So yeah, I even I went to the doctors and got a doctor's note. I think you would probably say that, just so you can hand it over to work. Hey, this is the reason why I've been absent from work. And I got him to do the COVID thing, because at the time when COVID was big, you had to have that, and work would excuse you for that. And then I handed it to my one of my bosses, and he just looked at me. He's like, you don't need that now. And I'm like, this is my first fucking time. Let me have this.
Let me just do it. I want to.
Yep. And he was like, we'll just record it as any other sickness. I don't care. I was sick for a whole fucking week. I don't care.
I earned this.
Basically.
I can apologize for my nasally voice, and that's just because I live in Michigan.
Yeah, that's just Matt's accent. He talks that way. He can't fix it.
It's just the way I talk.
So today we're just going to be kind of going over, like I said, our main takeaways from the last month of our own personal enjoyment and our own personal reading. I won't harp on the ska fest that I went to, but all I will say is if you like ska, and I know Matt, you like ska,
I
but
do.
if you like ska, you need to go to the Supernova International Ska Festival.
It looked
It was
amazing.
literally a weekend of. It's like one of the best weekends I've ever had in my life. Like no joke. Like it was an incredible experience. I met lots of awesome people, listened to lots of awesome music, danced my ass off. It was a great time. And I got to see Mustard Plug.
Yay! It's always a good time.
Who came in last minute because one of the bands got their visas rejected, and Mustard Plug was able to fill the spot.
Yeah, we're cool like that.
I'm actually seeing Mustard Plug again in December.
Nice.
They're doing a tour with Slackers.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I couldn't remember if that was a West Coast. Well, never mind. People don't care about this, so we can talk about that later.
What people do care about is I got a really good horror novel recommendation.
Ooh.
I read a book called The Black and Endless Sky by Matthew Lyons.
I have not heard of this.
Nope, me neither.
I'll read you the back. Are you ready for this?
Think so.
Road trips can be hell. Siblings Jonah and Nell Tabbitt used to be inseparable, but ever since Jonah suddenly blew town 12 years ago, they couldn't be more distant. Now, in the wake of Jonah's divorce, they embark on a cross-country road trip back to their hometown of Albuquerque, hoping to mend their broken relationship along the way. But when a strange accident befalls Nell at an abandoned industrial site somewhere in the Nevada desert, she begins experiencing ghastly visions and exhibiting terrifying, otherworldly symptoms. As their journey through the desolate American Southwest reveals the grotesque change happening within his sister, one thing becomes clear to Jonah. It's not only Nell in there anymore. Pursued by a mysterious stranger who knows far more about Nell's worsening condition than they let on, the siblings race to find a way to help Nell and escape the desert before they're met with a violent and bloody end. Unspeakable horrors lurk in the desert ahead, some of them just beneath the skin.
Sweet.
Sounds interesting.
It is a cosmic horror possession road trip story.
That's awesome.
And it is fucking rad. Like, it's violent, it's gritty, it holds no bars. Like, it just goes, and in the best way possible. Like, it's honestly, if they made this into a movie, I'd watch the movie hands down. Like, it would be an awesome movie. I'll put it this way: one of the opening scenes in the movie is a bar fight where they fight where Nell, because part of the backstory in the novel is Jonah, before he blew town, he used to be a fighter, and he used to get into bar fights a lot. And he was a very angry young man, would drink and fight. And that was like his thing, was just he was very, very much into bar fighting and beating people up. And something happened that caused him to leave town. When they're going back to Albuquerque, Nell wants the old version of her brother back. So she starts a bar fight with a biker gang to get Jonah into, like, his old habits, right? And as part of that, she ends up clocking the brother of the head of this biker gang in the head, and he has a seizure and dies, which causes the biker gang to chase them.
Yeah.
Because retribution, like, you killed my brother, I'm going to fucking kill you. So that's part of the main thing in the novel, is just like this biker gang really trying to hunt down Nell and Jonah and get their revenge for what Nell and Jonah did to them. And it gets into discussions of both, like, what our purpose is in life, how our childhoods reflect to our own adulthoods, facing the sins of our own past and the things that we've done, and coming to terms with who we used to be and who we can be, is kind of like what the novel is trying to get at too.
I like it.
But it gets into some really heavy stuff, and it's very, very violent.
Huh. Well, when did this come out? Because I've never heard of this. Last year?
Came out last year. He has two novels. He has this, and he has another novel called The Night Will Come for Us. I have that one too. And he has a novel coming out next year through Tor Nightfire.
Oh wow! All right.
So he's putting out stuff, and I first heard of him because the book I mentioned before, what's it called? I have the actual name. I'm on my Kindle right now. Matthew Lyons. It is The Night Will Find Us. Ed Lauren reviewed this book on his YouTube a while ago, but that review is gone now. And that's how I first heard of this author.
Huh.
And he had a big review for the book. And this is his first book, The Night Will Find Us. It just says, school's out for the summer, and that means one thing to Parker, Chloe, and their 4 friends, a well-deserved camping trip in the Pine Barrens, a 1,000,000-acre forest deep in the heart of New Jersey. But when old grudges erupt, an argument escalates into the unthinkable, leaving one of them dead and the killer missing. As darkness descends and those who left alive try to determine a course of action, the forest around them begins to change. In the morning, more of the group has vanished, and the path that led them into the woods is gone, as if consumed by the forest itself. Lost and hungry, the remaining friends set out to find help, only to realize that the forest seems to have other plans. A darker, ancient horror lies ahead, and dreaming in a lake in the center of the woods, and it's calling to them. Meanwhile, deep in the trees, the killer is still at large, and one of the group's own has started to transform and warp into something other, something inhuman, something that wants to feast. Banding together to survive, the friends soon begin to understand that the true nature of the horror waiting for them in the Pine Barrens, and that not all of them will make it out alive.
That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds very tense.
So if you want kind of no holds bars horror novels, this guy is where it's at. And his novel coming out next year through Tor is called A Mask of Flies. And it just says, in the grisly aftermath of a botched bank heist, career criminal Ann Heller has no choice but to return to her family's cabin, a secluded shack in the San Luis Valley, and the site of her mother's untimely death. Along for the ride are Jessup, Ann's badly wounded partner, and Dutch, the police officer she's taken hostage. As they wait for help, Anne discovers strange relics of her mother and begins to unfold the mystery of her childhood at the cabin. Anne's quest to uncover more is interrupted when Jessup goes missing only to return dead, and she and Dutch bury her friend, but that night the dead man comes back, seemingly risen from the grave, to knock at the cabin door. Not a dream, not a hallucination, but not exactly Jessup either. Something else, something wearing her friend's face, something hungry. The cops are the only one after Anne, and unraveling the secrets of her mother's past may be the only hope of getting out alive.
All right. Apparently he's good with the tension stuff, because that sounds very intense.
He's really good with tension, and literally like A Black and Endless Sky. I've only read that one book, and I'll just say like every chapter just adds more tension. There's no levity, there's no break. It's just tension, 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 tension the entire way through. And I feel it takes a talent to just write a book that's nothing but tension.
Yeah.
Like that's a skill in my opinion. But like if you want a really good horror novel, like I can't recommend that one enough.
Amazing.
But Matt, what about you?
Yeah, let's see. For this last month, I think I'll talk first about Maggots Screaming by Max Booth III. This
yeah.
So this came out I think last year, and it's crazy. It's such like it. So the basic premise is Max, the character, and his wife Lori, the character, they're separated. They have their kid Dylan, or they have a kid Dylan, and it's Max's weekend with Dylan, and there's already been like a little bit of a fight because Lori wants to take Dylan to Corpus Christi. So he argued his way to get Dylan, and they're tearing up Dylan's mom's old garden at the house because they're separated, and they find a finger, which then turns into a whole human body, which turns out to be Dylan. and then they find a Max, and then they find a Lori. So they find these 3 corpses, but they're perfectly more like doppelgangers. We'll say that, and that's where the story just kind of goes from there. At first, I was like, oh man, how? Because this book is like 300 some odd pages, and it was just like, how is he going to fill this thing up 300 pages with this concept? It's a very bizarro concept, and most bizarro stuff, if you've read it, usually are kind of short, kind of novella length, because after a while you could probably see that the story is running thin. Not to say that I don't like bizarro, I love bizarro, so that was not a slight at them. But anyway, this this book goes in some crazy places. Rich, did you read this?
I have not, but I've heard it's quite ridiculous.
Yeah, but like, and it's crazy because like it goes just they're decomposed. Like, so Max, living Max and living Dylan are slowly decomposing along with these 3 bodies that they found, and it's just this like crazy walkthrough of how decomposition happens, but then you're also alive while it's happening, so you're bloating. Flies are just attracted to you, hence the title Maggots, because they have maggots everywhere, and after a while they just don't even care about them anymore because they have no feeling, because they're dead. And so it's just a lot of that kind of gross stuff. But having read the back of the book and kind of remembering Max talking about this a long time ago, he did a ton of research on decomposition, and so all of this stuff is pretty much factual. Like, I mean, obviously them being alive isn't the factual part, but like what your body's process and the stages that go through this decomposition is all very accurate, which is gross when you kind of get into reading this and they're alive while it's happening. And yeah, so it just goes, they eventually Max gets one of his friends over, and the friend's trying to help him figure it out. They end up going to a body farm where there's all these decomposing bodies to see what kind of happens to decomposing bodies, in which they meet a doctor there, and she is a little wacky, and she might make an appearance a little bit later in the story. And it just like it was a blast. Like the first like 50 pages in, I was kind of, like I said, kind of wondering how he was gonna make this last longer, but there's a certain point and then you're just like, all right, I'm on board, I'm in this, and I'm just going full through it. And it just gets worse, but it gets better. And like it's just very fascinating. And like there's some fun through lines because it's all told from the boy's perspective. He's talking to his doppelganger, and like you realize what is happening by the time you get to the end, but up until that point he's kind of reliving the story. And it's told in Max's crazy style, so there's lots of randomness in there that I'll play. It's amazing too, because there's all these little references and things that happen that seem sort of like a 13-year-old boy telling a story. So like his mind and his train of thought are going different places, but it all like comes together, which was amazing because again, you're going into some weird, like there's lots of Simpsons talk. They're rewatching all the Simpsons because what else do you do when you're just a dead body? But that plays an important role later. There's a point where they're playing Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and that plays an important part later. And just all these little things that seem one way turn out to be something completely different. And it just like picks up steam, and you're just in it, and it's fascinating. It also deals with like as a boy dealing with divorce and like what does that mean and like how does that work out and what your parents are like. It deals with relationships between friends, spouses, children, and adults, and so he it's not just a silly story about these 3 decomposing bodies, but or 6 decomposing bodies. There's a lot more happening in there because it's Max, so he knows how to kind of do that stuff. So yeah, it's one of those ones. I think he even put like in the notes at the end where like he showed it to somebody, some publisher, and there's like, yeah, no way anyone's ever gonna publish this for you. So he did it himself, and it sort of makes sense because it is so goopy and lots of gross parts. There's like a limb getting chewed off by a dog. There's just at one point he can like. You can't really talk to the maggots, but you can kind of hear the maggots. So you're kind of dealing with that. And then there's some really bad or really awesome, gross body horror later on. So there's just a lot happening. And I'm kind of glad he just put it out himself so nobody could really kind of tweak it and make it a little bit more mainstream. So it's if you are interested in what happens to decomposing bodies, this is definitely the book for you. So yeah, Maggots Screaming. It was a blast.
That sounds like fun. Honestly, I like Matt. I need to read more Max Booth. I've liked everything I've read from him.
Yeah.
I think his books are wild and they're a lot of fun, but he also is able to get like a really good like scare, creepy moment or have some really like heartfelt moment that kind of comes unsuspectingly.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Especially like you get kind of to the end and you're just like, oh man, this is rough. And not in a gross way, in a rough, like, oh, it's tugging at my heartstrings kind of way.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like he's really great. I will say, at least with my book, there's nothing super gross besides the main character gets there's lots of descriptions of body infections actually in the story that I talked about. So I guess we both got some pretty gross stuff in ours. But yeah. How's your compared to our grossness? Or is yours a bit different?
Mine's a bit different. Yeah, because while I was sick, there was not much that I can do, like in terms of like keeping a concentration. So I tried to read, but it just didn't work. But luckily, my husband, he had bought a video game that he had already played, but I knew more about the game than he did, and I was super excited. But then again, I was too sick. But then on like not this Thursday, but last Thursday, I had enough strength to actually get out of bed and concentrate on something else. And I decided to play Baldur's Gate 3.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know if I should say I've regretted that decision ever since, because this game has a huge asshole on me. I'm obsessed. This is my, like, if I have ADHD, this is my hyperfixation. It's like, I'm not even joking. Like every single, like when I went back to work on Monday and just all this week, I've just been counting down the hours. Like, when can I go home and play Baldur's Gate?
That's funny.
I usually do not obsess. I usually do not obsess about video games at all. But this one has such a hold on me because you can do so much. You can do so much in this fucking game. It's like the sky's the limit. And from what I knew, like I knew the characters were really interesting. And you have a lot of companions. This is basically like, if for those of you who don't know Baldur's Gate, this is based off of Dungeons and Dragons.
Forbidden Realms, baby.
Yep. Yeah. And it's so fun. So if you have no clue how Dungeons and Dragons work, I totally recommend that you play Baldur's Gate 3, because then you get a really good idea of how playing Dungeons and Dragons works. And yeah, so I because I play Dungeons and Dragons, I was super excited about that. I was like, it's a video game and I can do this. Oh, awesome. and I can interact with the characters. That's amazing. And I get to be a tiefling. And of course I immediately created a tiefling, like, for my first character, and it's actually based off of my one of my characters that I have played in another like campaign. But instead of making a rogue, I made her a cleric, and that was fine.
That was fine.
Yeah, that was fine. Until I realized that I actually already have a cleric in my group.
Oh.
But then I was like, I mean, having 2 clerics is pretty good, though. I mean, we need all the healing in the fucking world.
Right.
And like, she can be the main healer, and I can be a tank.
Which is pretty awesome.
It is, and then I discovered I didn't know that before I turned in the game, that you can actually pursue a romance with the characters.
Nice.
Well, and you're a tiefling, so that's gonna go.
I mean, tieflings are basically the bisexuals of the D&D world, so yeah.
They're big sluts.
Yep. Well, in Baldur's Gate 3, they're actually not portrayed that. They're like, they are looked down upon, and there's like a lot of prejudice in it. Like, they basically like, oh, you're hell beast. And they're like, I'm not, though. I'm pretty nice. And you actually have to, like, in the first act, you have to help them escape from goblins. Like, there's a huge group of tieflings who can't fight, and you're like, oh, so we have to save them. But yeah. I'm still on fucking Act 1, by the way. But and I'll elaborate a little bit further. But it was like going back to the romance thing. I had no idea, and then there's this one companion that I enlist into my group, and oh my God, you guys, I can't help this. I'm so okay. I've told my friends, like, okay, apparently I have bypassed my awkward vampire teenage phase because this fucking character is a vampire, and he's so fucking charming, and he's a complete fucking douchebag. He's got all the red flags, and I'm like, oh God, your voice, just how the way you move, you're making me swoon. What's happening? I'm just sitting here like by the computer, and when he compliments me, when he flirts with me, I just get all red. I'm like, what's happening? Why?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And the worst thing is, like, when I was doing my first playthrough as the tiefling, I didn't know about this, but I had, for some reason, like, every choices that you make, the characters will either disapprove or approve of what you do. I had no idea about that. And one of the cleric, whose name is Shadowheart, she apparently had been approving of what I do, because in this gameplay, I was like being a bit of a heroic goody two shoes thing. Like, I was basically, if my alignment was, I think it was probably chaotic good or mostly good. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're interesting, but we have a fucking vampire here. Who speaks with a British accent, who is voiced by Neil Newbon from Detroit Become Human, who has the most charming voice ever, and I hate this. So I'm like, I'm sorry, so I'm gonna talk to him for a little bit while. And then at one point, like, we were celebrating, there was like this party, and I had like an option dialogue where I could ask him to go to bed with me.
Nice.
And he just looked at me and he was like, I'm flattered, darling, but it's not you, it's me. And then he just looks at me, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he just like said, I have standards.
Nice.
It was the worst fucking burn I've ever heard. I just felt so betrayed. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with Shadowheart then and get with her, I guess. So I was like romancing her, and then at the end, I was so pissed. I was like, how could you not like me, man? I'm pretty fucking cool. And I've now made it my sole mission. I had to restart the game and make a new character so I can make him like me. I feel so embarrassed about this. I'm not even joking, but at the same time, I'm so fucking proud because he really likes me now.
Well, good job.
And every time, like, I talk to him, he always like, "Hello, beautiful," and I'm like, "Ah, oh, stop it, you!"
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
This is so bad, you guys. I'm like, I don't even care about the adventure anymore. I was like, no, I'm gonna keep this trauma puppy with me. It's like no one will touch him. He is mine.
All right.
I'm so embarrassed. I'm not even joking. Like, if you could see me now, like, I think my face is so fucking red from embarrassment. But at the same time, my inner teenage girl is like, yeah, you go get him, girl. Like, you hated Edward, and that's fine because he was a big red flag. But this guy, he's an adult. You're an adult. This is fine. I'm like, okay then.
Oh,
God.
I love it.
It's so funny. I'm still on Act 1. There's like 3 acts, and it's so big. And I even haven't found the last companion. I know where she is, but I'm like, okay, I need to finish this thing first, and then I'll go and grab you. Because I don't want, like, as much as I want her to be in my group, but I'm like, but she's such a cinnamon roll. She's like a big tiefling barbarian.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh my, and I've seen like screenshots of her or like clips of her like interacting. She's like I'm not kidding. She's like this most cinnamon roll ever. She's so funny and she's so cute. And I'm like, oh God, I can't have her in my group if I'm romancing Astarion. Because if that is led, then I will have to choose, and I can't choose between the two of them. It would break my heart. I can't have that golden retriever there.
Oh my gosh.
But it's so funny. But like, there's all of the things in this is so interesting, and it actually deals with a lot of things in D&D. Like, there's this one scene where you are like going through a village that has been rampaged by goblins, and there's like this building there, and it's locked. But as you approach, you start to hear banging inside, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" And and then you start to hear like low moans coming from inside, and one of the companions, the goody two shoes, they were like, we shouldn't open this. And I'm like, fuck no, I'm gonna open. And I open the door, and you just walk in on a bugbear and an ogre having sex.
All right.
And you just stand there like with a disgusted shock face. You're like, whoops.
But the best is your party's reactions to that scene. It's
so funny. Like every one of them is basically like looking shocked and disgusted, while Astarion the vampire is like, ha ha, look at that shit. It's so funny. And then you can't talk your way out of it, so you end up having to battle them. But it's still so funny just to have that scene there. Like, it's actually there. You can find it, or you can choose to do it, not to go there. But it's there though.
That's crazy.
Yep. Like, it is so much fun. It is like, I love this game so much. So yeah, this has been my hyperfixation this week.
All right. Well, I mean, honestly, I really want to play that game. I haven't been able to because I have nothing that can run it, but I hope to be able to play it soon.
Yeah. I'm only playing it on my husband's computer because my laptop can't take it. So we're basically taking turns using the computer. I'm like, can I play? And he's like, I'm actually playing with my guys. And I'm like, can I play, please? I need to be with Astarion.
Before I go to my next book, did I talk on this podcast about the movie God is a Bullet?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll skip that then. My next book, that's why I asked, just to make sure, because sometimes I forget what I even talked about some days,
Yeah.
My last book that I finished was The Man in the Picture by Susan Hill.
Oh.
You probably know her. She wrote The Woman in Black.
Yeah.
So this is along the same lines as A Woman in Black. It's a classic. I should say classic. It came out in 2007, but it's a gothic novel. And it's kind of hitting the same notes that The Woman in Black hits. It's a quick read, 145 pages. And it's about a man who he is at an art auction. and he comes across this painting. And this painting is this Venetian nighttime setting that looks like it was painted like 200 years ago. And there's a man in the painting who looks surprisingly modern, where everything else looks like old. And so, and he's just obsessed. He sees this painting and he wants it. And so he gets into a bidding war with it. He wins the painting. The person who lost the bidding war says he'll pay whatever he wants. He needs to get that painting. And our main character says no. And the guy's like, whoever has this painting, bad things will happen to. Please sell me this painting. I need it. And the guy's like, fuck you. It's my painting. I want it. I like it. And then so he gets back home. And as soon as he hangs the painting up, he begins having strange dreams. And then strange things begin happening around his house. And as the novella, I should say like novella progresses, he learns of the painting's history and how everybody who owns it has a horrible tragedy that they endure. And the last owner tells him her story. And a bulk of the novella is like this flashback of the story within the story Gothic trope that a lot of Gothic novels do. And even after hearing that, he's like, "Yeah, it's my painting though. Bye." And the whole crux of the book is kind of like this main character, because we know by this point it's an evil painting. We know it's bad. And by the end, it's just kind of us waiting for the other shoe to drop. Where it's kind of like the tension's been building with this painting. What tragedy is going to befall our main character? And it's a really fun Gothic novel.
That's cool.
Mike, I read it because Mike Davis from Lovecraft Easing, this is his favorite ghost book.
Oh.
He thinks like he says this is his favorite ghost story. And I can see why, especially the final line, it has a great final sentence. And it just like, it hits you in the gut right at the end in like the best way possible. But all I'll say is if you've read a lot of Gothics, nothing in this is going to surprise you. It's kind of, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Like if you want a nice Gothic novel, this is a nice Gothic novel. If you want a Gothic novel that's going to do something new with the genre, this isn't it. This is just a straight Gothic. And if that's what you want, you're going to have a good time. I guarantee it. I had a great time because I love Gothics. But if you don't like Gothics all that much, you are not going to really get the most out of this book that you can. And I'm not sure if this book will win you over into being a fan of Gothics, to be 100% honest with you. But, I mean, overall, I'd say it's a really good book. And I had a pretty good time with it. I don't want to say too much because it's so easy to spoil and there's so little that, like, it's 145 pages and it's all very straightforward. But it's a nice little tense, creepy book. And I kind of want this creepy painting, even though I know something bad will happen to me if I get it. It sounds really cool.
It does sound really cool.
But that's my other book I finished. I have some other things I'll add on later. But Matt, what about you?
Yeah, so I've read Ben Arzate's Arzate. I can't pronounce his last name. Arzate. Arzate. We'll say that. His book titled "Music is Over," or The Facts Concerning the Disappearance of Juntaro Yamanouchi. This came out from Malarkey Books. I think this is the third Malarkey book I've read this year, and I'm all for whatever they put out. I read Toadstones by Eric Williams, and that was amazing, and Kill Radio by Laura Bolgren, and that was I had a lot of fun with that one too. Music is Over is just he did it kind of in the picaresque style, which I've been reading a lot of recently just due to Nicole Cushing doing that and talking about it. So, you know, it's kind of about like a picaresque is basically kind of like a rogue-esque character who it falls into all these crazy like things as they're progressing through an adventure. So like something's happening. So anyway, this is about Juntaro, who is actually he is a real person. He is a Japanese like kind of noise punk musician, and he
Wait, is this does this deal with that wait, what's his name again? Juntaro. I was thinking of Hana Trash.
Yeah, no, but
maybe Hana Trash.
Yeah, he went missing for like 13 years, and nobody knows kind of like what happened. So this book is kind of like a version of what could have happened. And I was just looking at some reviews, and some people kind of compared it to like say Spirited Away, and I can see that, but in a very messed up way. So anyway, we open up on Juntaro. He is leaving this man that he just had sex with, and Juntaro is dressed up kind of as a woman, and he is I think he's in Tokyo, and he starts, and he's depressed because his longtime partner had passed away, and so he's not happy, and he meets this woman, and they first talk about this like kind of horror person, or this folk urban legend slit-faced woman who cuts women's mouths. She cuts a smile in their face. Yep. And yeah, the woman that Juntaro meets has the scar, but she didn't get it from the slit-faced woman, though she might have. You never know. Anyway, that just these two meet. They get on they meet this strange man because it's like in the middle of the night, and the stranger man says, "Hey, I have a train that's going to, I can't remember what town. They're going somewhere," and they're like, "All right, let's hop on this mysterious train. It's supposed to be like a night subway train, and they're testing it out. And this guy's a conductor, and he's like, "Hey, I can get you on this train. It'll be fine. We just don't tell anybody." So, which totally makes sense. Just jump on a strange train. So they go on the strange train, and they're the only ones on there. It's really outdated. It looks like one of the first subways that they had in Japan, and all the ads are really old and everything like that. And they eventually they can't find anybody on this train. Train stops, and it takes them to this town, which is literally called Nowhere Town in Japan, and it just goes like on all these kind of crazy picaresque things. They like go to a bar, and everyone's kind of really rude to them and can't help them, and they meet this, I think he's an American guy, and he acts really strange. And then just a little bit later, the bartender of this bar shows up dead, and the cops think it's Juntaro and the woman he's with. They pick him up, and strange things happen at this jail. And then they meet this kind of mad scientist doctor guy who's like could be human, might not be human. And then they go into this like nightmare hotel, and it's just all these crazy things happen, and it's just like really fascinating and amazing kind of story, because like all these just these really weird characters. It's not I wouldn't say it's straight up horror. It's just a weird fiction story. In fact, actually, it was on like the preliminary ballot for BizarroCon, or Wonderland, I should say, the Wonderland Awards. It didn't make it to the final ballot, but it was on there. So you would say it's more Bizarro than anything, but also kind of just this weird thing happening. And as they're going through, and they're meeting all these weird people, and all these kind of like just unsettling things are happening, and you're it's awesome. If you're into kind of weird picaresque things, this is definitely something you should read. Even if you're not, I think you should read this. It's just this neat kind of concept, and this just the things that are happening and everything that's going on. You're just always unsettled, and you're unsure what's gonna happen next. And yeah, it's super cool. I think it came out either beginning of this year or late last year, probably last year if it was on the Wonderland Awards for this year. But yeah, music is over. It's great. And what I also love, and I don't know if Ben does this for his other books. You can tell he's very punk rock because at the very opening, right in the like, publication page, whatever that you call that thing, he puts right on there. He's like, hey, if you want this to use this book or publish this book, go right ahead. Just let me know. Or if you want to take any part of this book, it's all yours. You can do whatever you want. And I just think that's fascinating and something that we don't see very much, but kind of is that punk rock style of just like, hey, you can tape my whole album or use half this cassette for whatever you want and stuff like that. So good for him for doing that. I don't know sales wise if that's good or if anyone will ever take up on it, but hey, it's there. And I thought that was fascinating. But anyway, Music Is Over. Definitely a weird thing to check out.
I just bought it.
Did you? Oh, yes.
I'm actually buying a couple things from. I'm buying a couple things from Malarkey Press right now. Actually.
Yeah, but before Kill Radio, I'd never heard of them, and then read that, and then my friend let me borrow Toadstones, and I was just like, where did these people come from? They're amazing. So yeah.
I just picked up Sophomore Slump.
Nice.
And I might get one more, maybe Toadstones, maybe Kill Radio. I'm also kind of looking at. There's one that sounded interesting. All their stuff sounds very surreal, which is kind of like, I like that.
Yes.
It's kind of like a weird, interesting, surreal kind of vibe. There's one called Thunder from a Clear Blue Sky by Justin Bryant.
Huh.
And that one seems pretty weird and interesting.
Yeah, no, this is Music Is Over it's very neat. I just love it. Even all the chapters open up with 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was a fun style, and it's funny because like I've never listened to anything Juntaro did, but he talks a little bit about like punk rock stuff, but that's not anywhere near to focus or anything. Like you get like 1 or 2 sentences every once in a while, but it's just the whole style of the book and the printing of the book and everything in it is very kind of punk. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Perfect. Vitlame, what about you?
Or was it all Baldur's Gate?
Well, I mean, apart from that, I did watch the movie No One Will Save You.
Oh, all right. Yes, I watched that too.
Mm-hmm. I really liked it.
Did you? I liked it too.
Yeah, it was. I really like horror movies that don't really focus a lot on dialogue, and this one definitely does that.
Yeah, I think there's like one line of dialogue.
Yeah, just one line, and it has so much tension. That's what I really love about it. And even though and this might be spoiling, but even though the things that were after her seemed a little silly at the beginning.
Yeah.
But right until the third act, they were so fucking creepy.
Yes.
Oh my God, the one on the roof. Okay. Jesus, I screamed. I was like, nope, I'm noping out of this. Nope.
Is that the long-limbed spider?
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty freaky.
That was like, because I kept thinking like, you can't, okay, they are creepy enough. I can give you that, but how can you up the ante? Up the ante. And then this scene with the roof comes up. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I like that. Like, I agree. Like, cause when he made it, I mean, like they're clearly the, like, not that they're little, but the little gray typical alien that you picture face, but like they're also unique in what they do. I thought that was like, that was neat. That was a good turn.
Yeah, I agree. And the ending for me was also what was both really surprising and it also broke my heart.
I had one problem with the ending.
What was that?
Well, not to spoil it, but there's a certain everything like the the trauma part, like getting in and seeing that part, that was great. The like literal final scene was really great, but what the aliens and what happened between the aliens and her, that was my only my only like, this is like a huge flaw in their plan to take over the world.
True.
Because everybody has trauma. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, how do they decide that this certain trauma make a decision that they made? I was like, that is a huge flaw.
And well, it's not shown in the movie or anything like that, but maybe she decided to be like selective mute
to get that ending.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know. Again, like, yeah, because yeah.
Well, for me, why it broke my heart is because she decided not to move on with her life. She decided to just to live on in this fantasy.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't have to deal with more of the trauma.
Yeah.
And that was what really broke me. I was like, oh no, oh honey, this is not a world you want to live in. But
yeah.
but at the same time, like, I get it. Isolation sucks.
Yeah.
Grief is awful. But I mean, given that she didn't have the support group for that, I understood her decision.
Yeah. No, that and that, like, but like, was it her decision?
I don't know.
They make that decision for her.
I think it might have been like a two-way thing, like both her and them.
Yeah. That part, like, yeah, like that concept of how they ended it, I was just like, oh man, it's so messed up. Because yeah, like you said, do you really want to live your rest of your life like that? But
yes.
But I was still just like, why? Like, are they going to do that everywhere? Every time they pick somebody up, and they're like, oh, you had a rough one, so we'll let you go. And then I was just like, yeah, but like a lot of people have.
Maybe they just kind of like rewarded her for her moxie. I mean, they were like, you killed one of our own. That shows guts, my friend. We'll see how long you live with this, this kind of situation for long enough. Because as you see in the end, you see there's just not just one ship. There are many of them. So what is she going to do?
Yeah. Well, apparently, if all of these aliens have a certain feeling that they showed in this one, there's going to be a bunch of people with these problems, and maybe they band together and they fight back.
Maybe. And that's why they're creating this kind of utopia for them.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. It was just, I loved it all the way up to that, like, one tiny little scene, and then I loved it after that scene. But that one little scene, I was just like, oh man, that's like, that seems like such a huge like flaw to be like, oh, it's okay, we'll leave, we'll do this thing for you. And I'm like, man, like, so many people have problems. So like, are they gonna do that for everybody? And
so I guess you could say it grinded your gears.
It really ground my gears.
Ground my gears.
And it's like, if they go to every town is going to have at least one person that has similar issues. And then in turn, are they going to let all these people be free? But otherwise, I loved everything about it. That was my one tiny little gripe.
Yeah, there's always going to be something that is going to set you off.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, that was with the last voyage of the Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were so many problems there. I was like, I did like it though. I enjoyed it a lot, and I loved how this depiction of Dracula was put on. But at the same time, I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
So okay, so you like,
I had so many problems with that movie.
Okay, we can discuss
The Last Voyage of Demeter. No, I did not like that movie at all.
Oh, okay. Why?
It just, it didn't. I think I had a different picture in my head of what the movie was going to be versus what I got, because it felt just very kind of by the numbers. and I
True.
was hoping just something different. But I
mean,
also I went
it's
in with
based on a legal.
negative-
It's based on a small thing that happens in the
Yeah.
book.
I also went in with a negative mindset because ever since the trailer played that Smashing Pumpkins song that was so on the nose, it really hurt like my opinion of this movie.
I
Even going
hadn't seen
into
the
it from there.
trailer, so yeah, that probably didn't
Yeah,
affect
but
me.
the trailer halfway through is just here, the world is a vampire, and I'm like, motherfucker, motherfucker.
Okay,
And like
that's
that
so
really just
stupid.
hurt how I like the advertisement just really hurt how I viewed this movie. So it's a me
Yeah.
more of a me thing than the actual movie thing.
Yeah. But it had really good actors in it. It had
Oh,
Liam.
the acting was good. The effects were good. I thought Dracula looked really good in the makeup. It's just
yeah.
besides that, it just didn't do much for me.
No.
And I feel like, and that's what I don't have too much to say too, is like I feel like if a movie makes me hate it, it did something to me. If a movie makes me love it, it did something to me. If I leave a movie indifferent, I feel that's a problem.
That's a problem. I agree. I totally agree with that. It's so funny though, like with the, since it's based off a small thing in the book, I was kind of I think that's one of the things that like kind of like didn't make me want to like really love this movie was that, for those of you who haven't read Dracula, sorry, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but at the same time, it's kind of not. When the Demeter comes and crashes on the shores of England, everyone is dead. Like every single passenger or crew, and the captain is tied up to the wheel of the boat of the ship. Everyone is dead, and the only thing that the police see is a wolf or what they thought was a dog escape, like jump out from the ship and run away. And so I had like that was kind of what I was hoping for in the movie. I was like, okay, so everyone is gonna die and we're gonna see that. That's gonna be amazing. But no, they had to have one guy survive, and basically him taking up the mantle of being Van Helsing, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, that was and not a fan of that either.
No, I was not a fan. I was like, no, kill everyone off. You had the balls to actually kill a child on screen. And they didn't have the balls to kill that guy, that character. And it was like, why didn't you? Because, I mean, why? Do you think people were still shocked that you killed a child there?
Yeah.
So I was pissed that he lived. I was like, okay, so if there's going to be a sequel from this, then he better fucking deliver. But I doubt it's going to be like that. I don't think it got a good reception.
Yeah.
It got a pretty bad reception.
Yeah, and another thing, like with the ending, not just with Clemens, but with when you see Dracula in the pub and he still looks like monsters, I'm like, no.
I will say, it was better. Did you see that BBC Dracula series that Netflix put on?
Yeah.
It was better than that.
No, I mean, but the thing is, like, how everyone described Dracula, like in the books and just the lore in general, that he's a shapeshifter. He can change shapes. He can disguise himself pretty fucking well. And that he didn't think of that in the fucking movie. He's just looking around like, hi, don't bother me that I look like a half of a bat. It's fine.
Totally cool.
And I just put on a top hat and I look royal, right?
Yeah, like, don't judge my skin condition.
Yeah. So that really bugged me. I was like, no, he would be in a fucking disguise. I mean, I know he's a proud fucking fella, but come on, he would not do that.
I agree with that. But I was thinking with the BBC show, I thought the BBC show did a really good job with like the boat part when Dracula's on the boat and stuff.
Yeah, I really like that. And I also really like the part that they added Van Helsing in the ship.
Yes, I thought that was good.
I thought it was brilliant.
My thing with it is when he's in modern day, and he's on the dating app, and he's like, "I love fast food," or whatever that comment he made about like the
Oh
dating stuff.
yeah.
Like, God fucking damn it, you had such a good time, and you fucking ruined it.
Yeah,
Like,
I would have actually would have wanted to see like him like in a fish in a dry land scenario, like him trying to navigate a modern world. He'd be like, hot stuff. What is this? Like a refrigerator. What is this? And he keeps food cold. Like I can actually keep all the blood, all the victims that I've killed. I can keep them stored in here. Like I want a little bit of that because it's funny, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're a monster and you have to navigate our world. Go nuts. But they didn't.
Yeah, no.
So there was a kind of like a missed opportunity there. This is why I like the books by Kim Newman.
I didn't read those. I heard they're really fun.
Yeah, the Anno Dracula series. They're really good. It's basically just him, like if he had managed to, if Van Helsing failed his mission and Dracula just, roamed everything, and he was like the prince consort to the Queen of England.
Oh wow!
And they're just vampires everywhere, and they're like, and it's like a mixture of really famous characters there, like Sherlock Holmes is there, and there's for the first book actually it depicts Jack the Ripper and everything. So there's like a lot of mix of really interesting characters, and then afterwards, like the other stories, he always managed to escape his death, and he always like goes like from one period to the next. So each book basically chronicles that, and the other vampires, like the ones who were bitten, I don't know, can't remember if they were willingly or not. They travel to the places where he still is, and they're like trying to stop him.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. So I think I have all the stories now, but I haven't started on the one where it is like the golden era of Hollywood. So he's there at that end in one of the books there. I think that's interesting. I think it's called Dracula Cha Cha Cha.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I need to read those. But I will say my last thing for this will be, it's getting review bombed right now, but it's really good, and that is Castlevania. I think it's Nocturne.
Mm-hmm. I've been hearing a lot about this.
The new Castlevania spin-off anime on Netflix.
Yeah.
Have you seen this one yet, Vitlame?
I haven't yet, no.
It's really good. I think it's really good. It's I know we try to keep this podcast mostly like apolitical, and I know politically all three of us are pretty much on the same page.
Yeah.
And I like to feel our listeners fuck with us too, because we don't really get into that, but there's this whole thing of like people angry that there's black characters that exist in the French Revolution in the show, when like of course there's black people in France in the late 1700s because it's France. Like Haiti was a French slave colony. Of course there's black people living in France. There's a whole subplot about the Haitian slave revolution. And it's kind of funny that like the head plantation owner in the Haitian slave revolution in the show is a vampire, and like all like the slavers are vampires and stuff. It's kind of funny. But of course they're going to do that because like it's the time period, and like everybody's having all these YouTube videos about how it's woke and how it's bad writing and how like it goes against what Castlevania is, and I'm just like, motherfuckers, like how miserable do you have to be to just hate everything?
Yeah.
Like how miserable do you have to be to just have that much hate? Like I couldn't hate anything that much if I tried.
Yeah, that's
like,
insane.
I couldn't write a 10-minute YouTube video about me being mad there's a black character in a Castlevania anime. Like, I couldn't. Like, I honestly couldn't. But that being said, my rant aside, if you're not racist, you'll like the show a lot.
Oh my god, people.
It takes place a couple hundred years. You saw did you guys see the original Castlevania anime or no?
I was just gonna ask. I think I've seen the
it.
first two.
Yeah,
I haven't finished it either.
Okay, the first anime is really good. All 4 seasons are great.
They did 4 already? Holy crap! Okay.
Well, yeah, there was 4. The first season's like 4 episodes.
Yeah.
The second season's like 4 episodes, and then seasons 3 and 4 are like I think 8 episodes each. Okay. So they're all pretty short. This one takes place a couple hundred years later, and each of the seasons kind of follow different aspects of the games. So this one is loosely based around I think it's Rondo of Blood or Bloodlines, and then Symphony of the Night are the 2 this one's based around. So it starts off during the American Revolution, and we meet our main character, Richter Belmont, who is a child, and his mother is a vampire hunter, because they're Belmonts, and the Belmont family are all vampire hunters. And as a child, he watches this brutal vampire murder his mother in front of him. And then it fast forwards about 20 years, and he's a kick-ass vampire hunter living in France. And as the French Revolution's happening, the vampires have made their way to France, and they've been working with the bourgeoisie or whatever. They're working with the rich people to, one, give themselves a steady supply of blood coming in, and also continue the wealth of the rich people going on while the French Revolution's happening. So we have vampire fights and the French Revolution.
Awesome.
And Richter Belmont joins a group of revolutionaries to join the revolution and also to purge the vampires and bring France back for the people of France. And it's brutal. It's super violent. It's super intense. There's like one thing I liked about it, and this is kind of a spoiler, is there's a scene where Richter comes across the vampire that killed his mom. And like, I feel if we have this badass vampire hunter action scene, and it's the vampire that killed the main character's mom, you'd expect him to kind of get super angry and power up, right? And be like, I'm gonna fuck this vampire up. He fucking cries and runs. Like, seeing this vampire just absolutely breaks him and triggers him, and he needs to get out. And I felt that was such a unique take to just have that main character have that trigger. Yeah. And instead of having that action scene, they're just a fucking mess. And I'm just like, I'm here for that. Like, I like that narrative direction. Yeah. I think a lot of people weren't happy about that direction too, but I thought it was a good choice for the sake of an interesting narrative. I'm also not racist, so I didn't mind there were black people either. But I'm sorry. It's just like, I legit found like so many YouTube videos calling Castlevania woke and like saying how the show is like anti-white because there's 2 black characters. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God, dude. Like,
yeah,
I fucking can't with these people. But if you're not racist, watch the show. It's great. If you are racist, don't listen to this podcast. We don't want you.
Yeah.
But anything else for you, Matt?
I mean, just real quick, 2 things that I could and I know we said 1 each, but these don't count because I didn't finish them. Brian Evison, Fugue State. It's an older one, a collection of his, 2008, I think. It has illustrations in it. I found this, picked it up, and I've been loving all the short stories in here. They're surprisingly more comedic than I remember any of his other stuff being. I mean, they're still dark, and he still finds a way to make something as simple as 2 kids sleeping in like a homemade tent in their living room terrifying.
Yeah, Brian Evans is so good at that. Like, I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I just every like this one of the last stories I read was just it's about like book publishing and this editor who's at this publishing company and he's like the literary guy, but the owner of the publishing company is like, no, we don't want you to pick something literary. We want you to pick just something that will be a bestseller. Or he's like got 3 Bs, big ass blockbuster something or other, and it's just really silly. So this literary editor is just scrambling and trying to figure out like he eventually finds something that has to do with Raggedy Ann, and he's like, oh, this is stupid, but it'll be easy. Well, you find out that the owner of the publishing company is terrified of dolls. You have no idea why, but he's just terrified of them. Find out the guy that suggested the Raggedy Ann stuff used to be friends with this publisher, and then they got into a big fight, and this publisher has a thing called 90 over 90, and slowly we start figuring out what this 90 over 90 thing is, and it's this like how this guy has this power over people, I don't know, but he makes them do stuff. So he made one guy eat 90 eggs in 90 minutes, which is impossible. He had somebody else find it was something like he had to get 90 contracts over in 90 days. And then once the 90 days were up, this publisher like tore up all the contracts. And so like that's this power he has over people. And so you're like really hoping this dude can find something. He can't. He gets a doll and freaks the publisher out with just this porcelain doll, and the publisher's like, get out of here. Like you can leave this company. Only way you can leave it is you have to get 90 stories from people 90 or over within 90 days. And so like, and that's it. And it's just so like it's such a silly concept, but like the tension and the terrified and cracking up about all of this, okay, is amazing. So anyway, if you can find Fugue State, that's a great one. The other one, just real quick, is I'm reading House of Rejects, which is the making of Rob Zombie's Firefly trilogy. This is by Dustin McNeil, who did the big Halloween book Taking Shape. He's done one on Child's Play, and I think he did another one that I can't remember now. But anyway, I like what he does with all of his stuff. He gets really detailed on the makings of stuff. Like that Halloween book was about all the Halloween movies and the making of them, and it's fascinating. And this one's the same thing. So it's just this really fascinating look at the Rob Zombie trilogy, and just it. Even if you don't like those movies, it's still really interesting if you're ever into movie making or want to know what that process is like, or just into like what editing and it's really good. And he's got lots of good pictures and diagrams and interviews with people, and so anyway, that's the other thing I'm reading right now. But anyway, awesome. I with 2, but I figured this is our last chance, so I'll do that.
Well, I mean, I'm in the middle of reading. I'm in 2 books right now. I'm doing Hurricane Season by, I'm going to pronounce this name wrong because I'm terrible at Spanish, but Fernanda Melchor, I think is her name. If I pronounced it wrong, I apologize. I bought this book because Max Stark hated it, and if he hates something, I'm gonna buy it to troll him. But also, I hear it's really good and it sounds great. It says, the witch is dead, and the discovery of her corpse has a whole village investigating the murder. As the novel unfolds in a dazzling linguistic torrent with each unreliable narrator lingering on new details, new acts of depravity or brutality, Melchor extracts some tiny shred of humanity from these characters, inners whom most people would write off as irredeemable, forming a lasting portrait of a damned Mexican village.
Wow.
And I'm like, it sounds awesome. And the Netflix movie comes out soon, so I want to read that before the movie drops.
Nice.
And I'm also working on friend of the podcast, Daniel Bartnett. I am reading his book, The Flash Letters, which is volume 4 of his Nightmareland trilogy, or Nightmareland series, I should say.
Oh, nice.
And so far, it's definitely the first 3. He's built up a creepy moments, and this is one where he just hits the gas pedal right to the floor.
Nice.
And it just starts off with lots of creepy shit going on, and it just fully embraces what he was building up to. And so far, it's fantastic.
Nice.
And honestly, that's what else I'm working on. I'm not gonna go on my One Piece tangent because I am doing One Piece right now too. But that's another day. I'm not gonna bore our podcast with my anime takes. May, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
I'm like basically on and off on Twitter, but if they want to get in touch with me, they can send me a DM there at Vitlemayas. And they can also send me a message on my website, vitlemamistauthor.com. And I'm also on Blue Sky at Vitlemamist.
And buy her books. Buy them.
Yeah.
And Matt, what about you?
Yeah, almost pretty much same thing. Twitter still, or X, whatever. I'm still there. Brandenburg DM, and Blue Sky, I think my name, so you can find me. It's been tricky. Blue Sky has been like off and on. I feel like a lot of people jump over there, but then not a lot's happening. So who knows? Yeah. Who knows in this crazy world?
Yeah.
Just send me snail mail.
Snail mail. And I don't have Twitter anymore, but I'm on Blue Sky as Richard Gerlach. And I'll be posting more stuff with the Abyss in regards to Blue Sky, since I'm trying to just get rid of Twitter in general as a platform.
Yeah.
I feel like Blue Sky will be a good chance to kind of expand our reach a little bit if we can get there and do it right. And next week, we're going to be talking The Library Policeman with author Rami Unger. But for now, this is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.